In this video we're going to tie a Tarcher Style Pheasant Tail. First thing we're going to do is start off the Gamakatsu C12u Caddis Larva Hook. We're actually going to start by just inverting it slightly in the vise. This will help us tie in our tail. And we'll start off with some 14-aught red Veevus thread here. Then we're going to tie in our tail. For this we're just going to use about 10 or so fibers of pheasant tail. We're going to even up the tips of those pheasant tail fibers as even as we can get them. So I'll just kind of manipulate them in my fingers and try to get them as even as you can. Then we're going to tie them in so that they're about half of the length of the shank of the hook. We're going to take them all the way back down to the bend of the hook. And then we'll take our thread and we'll actually just wrap forward just to kind of build up a little bit of a body. And we're going to take it just past the bend or the top of our hook. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take some Brassie copper wire. We're going to just tie it in here at the back. If I can get it off the spool here. So just take a little 6-inch chunk and we're going to tie it in right along the side of the shank of the hook. And just follow the curve of the hook all the way down to where we tied in our tail. Now we're ready to tie in our body material, which again is pheasant tail. I'm just going to take another clump of about 10 or so, trim off the tips so they're a nice blunt shape, and then we're going to sneak them in right there at the back of the fly. And we'll take our thread forward to just past the top of the bend there. Then we're just going to take our pheasant tail, we're going to wrap a body with them. You can use hackle pliers to aid you in wrapping them. I actually just use my other finger here to just kind of stop each wrap as I go forward, and once I get where I want to be I can just capture it. Nice secure wraps there to secure it. Then we're going to take our copper wire and we're actually going to counter wrap it, which means I'm going to go the opposite way of the pheasant tail that we wrapped. So I'm just going to go the opposite way. This helps the wire really stand out. It also keeps the fly from unraveling if you get a little nick in one of your pheasant tail pieces. Makes it much more durable. And then once I get to the top, I'm just going to capture it with some thread. A couple nice tight wraps. It's kind of difficult to secure a counter-wrapped piece of wire, so you just got to make some nice tight wraps, wrap in front and behind it a few times, and once you do that you can twirl the wire out of there and lay down a few more tight wraps and you've secured it. Now at this point we'll reorient our bug here, and I'm just going to point it a little bit more up at this point. And then I'm going to turn my vise to the side as well. Now this is the trick to the fly. This is what gives it the implied movement. You can tie your materials on the side, on the top, or on the underside. A lot of guys tie it on the underside. I do something that's a little different and a little harder, and that's I'm going to do it on the side. It gives the fly even more implied movement, but can be a little bit trickier to do. But we'll try it here and see if we can make it look halfway decent. I'm going to take another bundle of pheasant tail fibers, about a dozen or so. I'm going to even up those tips as much as I can. So we'll pull away a little bundle, and again even those tips up. And we're going to tie these in facing forward. These are going to be the legs. We're going to make our legs about half the length of the body. And we're going to tie those facing forward. Tie all the way up to the eye. Then I'm going to wrap back kind of smooth out the body a little bit. Now we're going to tie in the casing, which is also, you guessed it, pheasant tail. We're going to take another bundle, about 10 or 12 fibers. I'm going to trim off some of the black base fibers here, kind of exposing the nice brown fibers towards the front of the feather. And we're going to tie it in also right along the side of the hook, by the butt ends as well. And we're going to tie back to kind of where I tied in and stopped with the body and the wire. And I also need to mention, I didn't leave enough space, you need to leave some room up by the eye. You want to leave about an eye's length or more of room at the front of the hook. You can see I left a little bit of room there. I don't want to tie past that. I'm going to need that to finish off my legs. I'm going to take 3 pieces of Peacock Herl, trim off just a little bit at the tip to even them up, and I'm going to tie in that Peacock Herl by the tips. I'm going to take my thread to just after all those things that I just tied in, and in front of kind of my little leg tie-in point. I want to leave room still for all these materials. Now I'm going to take my Peacock Herl, twist it a few times to get it into a rope, and I'm going to wrap and build up a thorax with it. Again, still leaving some room. And you can trim out your peacock. And then we're going to take our casing and I'm going to pull it forward. Now I'm still on the side of the hook. It's hard for you to kind of tell with this camera angle, but I am right on the side of the hook. And I'm going to lay down with a couple nice tight wraps behind and also in front. Then I can get in there as close as I can and trim out the butt ends. Now here comes the trickiest part of the fly, and that's splitting the legs. So I'm going to take those fibers I had up here at the front of the fly and I'm going to split them into 2 equal portions. I'm going to do the near side here first, the trickier side, and I'm just going to fold them back. And it's hard to do this side because I have the point of the hook right here by my fingers. So I'm just going to lay down a few wraps, just folding back those fibers, and then I'll do the same thing on the far side here. And once I've done that, I can just kind of clean up the head. Got one little pheasant tail fiber bothering me right there. We'll see if I can catch it with my thread. It's the beauty of this Veevus 14-aught is you can lay down a few extra wraps and it won't affect the fly and add too much bulk. And I'll kind of show you what we did here. It's hard to tell from your camera angle, but I'll reorient the fly here. But what we have is a pheasant tail that looks like it's wiggling in the water, even though it's not. It's just tied on that curved hook. Kind of a neat little trick, Tarcher style, and that is the Tarcher Style Pheasant Tail.